Welcome to the CompTIA practice test. There will be 60 questions with explained answers. Let's begin. Question 1. What is the most common type of memory found in a typical PC? A. Flash. B. RAM. C. ROM. D. CMOS. Question 1 answer, B. RAM. Question 1 explanation. All applications and programs must be loaded into RAM to access them. This makes RAM a prime target for upgrades to increase the number or size of items it can hold. Question 2. Where is the BIOS stored on a standard PC? A. RAM. B. ROM. C. HDD. D. SSD. Question 2 answer, B. ROM. Question 2 explanation. ROM was created as a read-only type of memory. Storing your BIOS on the ROM of your PC ensures that your computer can successfully boot up, and that no modifications can be made to prevent your system from loading. Question 3. Which of these is not a valid reason to install a new expansion card in your PC? A. To add a VGA connection. B. To increase the number of network interfaces. C. To boost CPU performance. D. To connect an extra monitor. Question 3 answer, C. To boost CPU performance. Question 3 explanation. Expansion cards are primarily installed to add additional capabilities to your computer, such as adding another connector type for a second monitor, or adding another network connection. Question 4. Which type of RAID array provides zero redundancy? A. RAID 5. B. RAID 1. C. RAID 0. D. RAID 10. Question 4 answer, C. RAID 0. Question 4 explanation. RAID 0 provides striping of data across multiple drives, but does not mirror data onto any of the drives, providing zero redundancy. Question 5. What is the name for modifying the contents of the BIOS? A. PXE boot. B. Overclocking. C. Clocking. D. Flashing. Question 5 answer, D. Flashing. Question 5 explanation. It is commonly called flashing the BIOS when you replace or modify its contents. Question 6. Which of the following is not a standard rotational speed found on a hard drive? A. 10,000. B. 5,400. C. 7,200. D. 5,200. Question 6 answer, D. 5,200. Question 6 explanation. Standard drive disks move at a rotational speed of 5,400, 7,200, or 10,000 revolutions per minute, RPM. Question 7. What is the purpose of a heat sink on a motherboard? A. To provide a protective covering for hot components on the motherboard. B. To protect you from touching hot parts on the motherboard. C. To pull the heat out of a very hot device to dissipate the heat. D. To provide a centralized location for all of the hot components on the motherboard. Question 7 answer, C. To pull the heat out of a very hot device to dissipate the heat. Question 7 explanation. Heat sinks are designed to sit on top of a very hot component, such as a CPU, and draw the heat away toward its fins. Cool air is then blown past these fins, allowing heat to be absorbed into the airflow. Question 8. Bob has had his computer for a while and was just bragging to his friend about how reliable it was. The next morning, he goes to power on his computer, and nothing happens. He checks and makes sure all cords are plugged in, but still no luck. What could be the issue? A. No power. B. Not enough memory to turn on. C. Overheating. D. An unexpected shutdown. Question 8 answer, A. No power. Question 8 explanation. A computer with no power will not turn on. This could be caused by issues with the power supply inside the computer case, or issues with power coming from the outlet. Even if the cord is plugged in, either of these locations could be lacking in power, thus there would be no transfer of power. Question 9. Tim is an avid gamer and spends countless hours on his computer playing the latest installment of World of Warcraft. Wow! During this particular session, he has been playing for an unprecedented stretch of 36 hours straight. Suddenly, he gets a whiff of a burning smell coming from his computer and immediately shuts it down. What could the problem be? A. Bad video card driver. B. Flashed BIOS. C. Burned out hardware. D. System lockup. Question 9 answer, C. Burned out hardware. Question 9 explanation, burning smells usually indicate hardware that has burned out or a bad capacitor. To protect other components of your computer from potential damage, it is best to completely power off your machine until you can investigate the cause. Question 10. Tiffany is enjoying some downtime on her new desktop computer, when suddenly her computer powers off. She checks to make sure the power cords are still in place and she finds that they are. She thinks she should check the power supply in her computer, but her parents tell her that the power outlet she is using has always caused issues. What device could she use to check the voltages of both? A. Multimeter. B. Electrode tester. C. Power supply tester. D. USB tester. Question 10 answer, A. Multimeter. Question 10 explanation, a multimeter would be able to check voltage readings from both the power outlet and power supply. This would help narrow down the source of any power issues. A power supply tester's intended use is strictly to test the power supply unit. Question 11. John is a data scientist and consistently plays around with large data files on his desktop computer. While trying to pull up one extremely large file, John begins to hear a very loud clicking noise. What could this possibly indicate? A. Mechanical drive failure. B. Disconnected network connection. C. Faulty hard drive cables. D. Read/write head that needs cleaning. Question 11 answer, A. Mechanical drive failure. Question 11 explanation, typical hard drives consist of several moving parts required to read and write data. Loud clicking noises usually indicate one of these components inside the drive has failed. Constantly having to read extremely large file sizes could potentially accelerate hard drive failure. Question 12. Mike loves music and has recently borrowed a USB drive from his friend to copy over a new album. He leaves the USB drive inserted into the computer, and shuts it down for the night after he is finished. The next day, he goes to boot up his machine, and it displays a message saying OS not found. What could be the problem? A. Bad RAM. B. The OS not found virus. C. Corrupted music file. D. Incorrect boot sequence. Question 12 answer, D. Incorrect boot sequence. Question 12 explanation, the computer sets up the OS boot sequence in the BIOS. It lists the order in which it should look for an operating system. If the USB drive is listed in a higher priority, it will check here first for the system files. If none are found, or if they are corrupted, it may display this message. Question 13. After coming into work early to assist on a project, Tim finds that his computer monitor shows no image on the screen after turning it on. He checks and confirms that he is getting power to both the computer and monitor, so that shouldn't be an issue. What could be wrong with Tim's display? A. The wireless was turned off by accident. B. The computer is busy performing a defrag. C. The VGA connection was not seated completely. D. The monitor Ethernet cable became disconnected. Question 13 answer, C. The VGA connection was not seated completely. Question 13 explanation, the most common reasons for images not showing on the screen are generally cabling issues, For example, something is unplugged or not fully connected. These display cables are typically either VGA, DVI, DisplayPort or HDMI. Question 14. Jessica is interning at the IT help desk and your boss assigned you to mentor her and provide senior leadership while he is away on vacation. She receives a call from one of the executives, who says her laptop screen is appearing really dim and that she can't remember making any changes. Jessica asks for your advice. What could be the cause of this issue? A. The video cable is connected to the wrong port. B. The laptop is in power-saving mode. C. The executive's IP address changed, causing erratic behavior. D. The wireless signal is affecting the display brightness. Question 14. Answer: B. The laptop is in power-saving mode. Question 14. Explanation: Common issues with dim screens actually have little to do with faulty hardware. It is usually caused by the brightness settings being reset or modified on the display itself or on the video card. Another common case, with laptops specifically, is that power-saving mode can be triggered when the battery life drops below a certain threshold. Question 15. What is the purpose of the power converter on your laptop charger? A. To give your laptop battery a power boost. B. To convert the DC power from the wall to the AC power that the laptop can use. C. To convert the AC power from the wall to the DC power that the laptop can use. D. To provide voltage readings for the power coming out of the power outlet. Question 15. Answer: C. To convert the AC power from the wall to the DC power that the laptop can use. Question 15. Explanation: The power supply inside a traditional desktop enables conversion from AC power to DC power that your computer uses. Due to the compact size of a laptop, the laptop charger comes with its own converter, allowing you to convert to DC power externally. Question 16. Which two SATA-based formats does a laptop SSD come in? A. 1.5-inch and 2.5-inch. B. 1.8-inch and 2.5-inch. C. 2.5-inch and 3.5-inch. D. 1.8-inch and 3.5-inch. Question 16. Answer: B. 1.8-inch and 2.5-inch. Question 16. Explanation: The two SATA formats used for SSD for laptops include a 1.8-inch and 2.5-inch. There is also a newer format that is non-SATA based, which uses the M.2 motherboard socket. Question 17. Which display technology creates images by shining a light through liquid crystals? A. LED. B. OLED. C. Fluorescent. D. LCD. Question 17. Answer: D. LCD. Question 17. Explanation: LCDs, liquid crystal displays, work by shining a backlight through liquid crystals to create an image on the screen. Question 18. Which part of a computer is used with older display technology to convert DC power to AC power? A. Inverter. B. Digitizer. C. Converter. D. VGA. Question 18. Answer: A. Inverter. Question 18. Explanation: An inverter is used with older technology to convert the DC power inside your computer into AC power that can be used for the display. This is found with older displays that use CCFL, cold cathode fluorescent lamps. Question 19. Bill, a sales employee at your company, often takes his work laptop back and forth between home and the office. Each time he gets home after work, he has to set up his laptop all over again in his home office and connect several cords and cables just to get working. Which solution could Bill use at his home office? A. Docking station. B. Smartphone. C. Dual displays. D. Tablet. Question 19. Answer: A. Docking station. Question 19. Explanation: With a docking station, all of the cables and cords connect into one central device, and your laptop just slides on and off. This would allow Bill to just dock his laptop when he gets home from work and be ready to work in a matter of seconds. Question 20. Matt, from sales, is back from vacation, but he cannot find his laptop when he gets to the office. He says he left his laptop sitting on his desk, powered off and disconnected from the network. It appears the laptop has been stolen, and you call your boss to give him the bad news. What may have prevented his laptop from being physically stolen? A. Turning it on airplane mode before leaving. B. Leaving the laptop under his desk. C. Enabling a BIOS password. D. Laptop cable lock. Question 20 Answer: D. Laptop cable lock. Question 20 Explanation: Laptop cable locks will lock into place inside your laptop when you slide it in and attach to the system board. Before locking it, you take the cable and loop it around a very sturdy object, such as a part of your desk. This will likely prevent it from being stolen, as the thief now must also take the object that it is tied around, or risk damaging the laptop. Question 21. Paul is having a problem with his new work laptop. He let his children play on the laptop when he went home yesterday after work, and ever since then, the display has been showing up much darker, making it hard to read. What can Paul try adjusting on his laptop to fix this issue? A. Keyboard backlight. B. Screen orientation. C. Take it off airplane mode. D. Screen brightness. Question 21 Answer: D. Screen brightness. Question 21 Explanation: Paul should try adjusting the screen brightness to a higher setting. This will make the display brighter and make viewing the screen much easier. Question 22. What router setting can you use to allow only the devices that you specify in the configuration to access the router? A. Content filtering. B. Subnet mask. C. Encryption. D. MAC filtering. Question 22 Answer: D. MAC filtering. Question 22 Explanation: With MAC filtering enabled, only devices with a MAC address that is listed in the MAC filtering table on the router are allowed access. Question 23. Which sets of connectors are used for twisted pair cabling? A. RJ11 and RJ45. B. RJ11 and F-type. C. SC and ST. D. BNC and RJ45. Question 23 Answer: A. RJ11 and RJ45. Question 23 Explanation: RJ11 and RJ45 are used in twisted pair cabling, commonly for phone lines and Ethernet, respectively. Question 24. What type of IP address is 192.168.15.211? A. A private IPv4 address. B. A public IPv6 address. C. A private IPv6 address. D. A public IPv4 address. Question 24 Answer: A. A private IPv4 address. Question 24 Explanation: IPv4 addresses follow the format of 4 decimal octets. IPv6 format is 8 hexadecimal quartets. IP addresses that begin with 192.168 are in the RFC 1918 set of private addresses. Question 25. When you manually configure TCP/IP settings on a computer in a SOHO network, what address should you enter as the default gateway address? A. The internal address of the Internet router. B. The network address of the local LAN. C. It should be left blank. D. The IP address of that computer. Question 25 Answer: A. The internal address of the Internet router. Question 25 Explanation: The default gateway address is the address that a computer sends traffic to if it has no other route in its routing table. That would apply to most Internet addresses, so the default gateway is the device that sends traffic out to the Internet router. Question 26. Hannah's new clothing business is experiencing rapid growth, and she has planned to open 300 new retail locations within the next 5 years. All of these locations will need multiple public IP addresses per store, but, currently, they only have 4 public addresses. She would like to implement a new scheme, where she would not have to worry about being limited by IP addresses in the foreseeable future. What addressing scheme would you recommend? A. IP4 addressing. B. IP6 addressing. C. VPN tunnels. D. VLANs. Question 26 Answer: B. IP6 addressing. Question 26 Explanation: the public IP4 address space has been exhausted for quite some time now, meaning that all of these addresses have been purchased or allocated, usually by an Internet Service Provider, ISP. Many technical savvy companies have already begun the transition to using IP6, which contains a possible 340 untizillion addresses, or 2 to the 128th power. Yes, a lot of addresses. Many, if not all, ISPs have IP6 enabled equipment already in operation. Question 27. David is installing a new web server at the office, but doesn't want DHCP giving it a new IP address every time he has to reboot it during maintenance. What kind of address should David assign to the new web server? A. DNS. B. Dynamic. C. Static. D. DHCP. Question 27 Answer: C. Static. Question 27 Explanation: static addresses are those that are manually assigned and entered on a device. This will effectively disable DHCP. He should also reserve the IP address in the DHCP pool as good practice to prevent it from being leased to another device. Question 28. In a Windows environment, this protocol is often associated with Active Directory for central management of a user database. What is this protocol called? A. Domain Controller. B. LGAP. C. Exchange. D. Office 365. Question 28 Answer: B. LGAP. Question 28 Explanation: LGAP, Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, often works in conjunction with Active Directory to provide user authentication and management in a network. It is the successor to the DAP, Directory Access Protocol. Question 29. A network engineer is looking for a provider that will allow her to move her organization's servers, routers, firewalls, and switches to the cloud. This provider would essentially act as her organization's virtual data center. What type of cloud provider does this network engineer need to find? A. SaaS. B. IaaS. C. NAS. D. PaaS. Question 29 Answer: B. IaaS. Question 29 Explanation: IaaS, Infrastructure as a Service, is a cloud model that allows organizations to move their entire infrastructure to the cloud. Infrastructure includes items such as routers, switches, firewalls, and servers. Question 30. A CEO has requested that his IT department find a new accounting software. He would prefer that the accounting software doesn't need to be installed locally on his machine, since he often switches between multiple devices. He would like the program to simply be accessible via a web browser on any device while he has an internet connection. What type of software should this IT department be looking at? A. TAS. B. IaaS. C. SaaS. D. PaaS. Question 30 Answer: C. SaaS. Question 30 Explanation: SaaS, Software as a Service, describes any software that doesn't need to be installed locally on a device and can be accessed anywhere there is an internet connection. Question 31. Jamie is a software developer. She is great at writing code, but she doesn't know much about setting up or managing networks and servers. Jamie just wants to be able to write her code and manage her application while someone else owns and maintains the servers and networking equipment. What type of cloud provider would work best for Jamie? A. SaaS. B. PaaS. C. IaaS. D. DOS. Question 31 answer, B, BAS. Question 31 explanation, BAS, platform as a service. Companies provide platforms for software developers to build, create, and maintain their applications. The PaaS provider handles everything on the back end, including setup and maintenance of servers and networking equipment. Question 32. The program Dropbox Registered is an application that is accessible to anyone over the open internet. This means that Dropbox Registered is an example of which of these cloud types? A. Public cloud. B. Community cloud. C. Hybrid cloud. D. Private cloud. Question 32 answer, A. Public cloud. Question 32 explanation, public cloud refers to anything that is delivered across the open internet. When someone uses the term the cloud, they are often referring to the public cloud. Question 33. A very large enterprise has decided that they would like to make the move to cloud computing. However, they need to ensure that there is no risk of their data being accessed by others. The company is willing to spend as much money as it takes to ensure their data is secure and entirely owned by themselves. Which of the following cloud implementations would be the best choice for this organization? A. Secured cloud. B. Confidential cloud. C. Hybrid cloud. D. Private cloud. Question 33 answer, D. Private cloud. Question 33 explanation, while private clouds are the most expensive of the cloud implementation options, they are also the most secure. If an organization has high security concerns, and can afford a private cloud, it is the best option. Question 34. An organization would like to move to the cloud. They have some data that is extremely sensitive, but they also have a lot of data that isn't private at all. They know that they would not be able to afford to move all of their data to a private cloud, but they would like a way to keep their sensitive data secure. What is the best option for this organization? A. Community cloud. B. Combined cloud. C. Mixed cloud. D. Hybrid cloud. Question 34 answer, D. Hybrid cloud. Question 34 explanation, due to the high price of creating and maintaining a private cloud, many organizations use a hybrid cloud. A hybrid cloud combines public, community, and private clouds to meet unique requirements. Question 35. One perk of virtualization is the ability to quickly add and remove servers depending on your needs at the time. What is the term used to describe this? A. Rapid elasticity. B. Rapid extensibility. C. Rapid availability. D. Rapid flexibility. Question 35 answer, A. Rapid elasticity. Question 35 explanation, rapid elasticity is the term used to describe the flexibility of virtualization, which allows for users to add and remove servers as they need them. Question 36. A user who travels extensively with her laptop needs to protect sensitive data stored on her hard drive. To ensure the data is secure, which feature of Windows Ultimate will allow encryption of the entire drive? A. Share. B. BitLocker. C. LoJack. D. EFS. Question 36 answer, B. BitLocker. Question 36 explanation, with Windows Ultimate and Enterprise editions, as well as Windows 8 and 8.1, BitLocker allows users to encrypt the entire drive, protecting the data from loss or theft. Question 37. A user enters the Windows command line prompt to create a new directory. What is the command to accomplish this? A. mkd. B. md. C. mk. D. dir. Question 37 answer, B. md. Question 37 explanation, the command to create a new directory in Windows from the command line prompt is md, make directory, or mkdir. Both of these commands will work the same. Question 38. A user needs to load Windows 10 onto a notebook that was running Windows 7, This will be a new installation, not an upgrade. Since the notebook has no CD/DVD, the user has the image of the operating system stored on a USB flash drive. What must be done to the system prior to loading from the flash drive? A. Windows 10 does not support booting from the thumb drive. B. The boot sequence in system BIOS must be adjusted, making the USB the first device in the boot order. C. Memory must be increased. D. Windows license must be entered. Question 38. Answer: B. The boot sequence in system BIOS must be adjusted, making the USB the first device in the boot order. Question 38. Explanation: when the system boots, it boots in the order listed in BIOS, so the thumb drive must be shown as the first device. Question 39. A PC has been configured as a print server that will be available 24 hours a day. In order to save power, the PC should be powered off when not in use. What feature of the network interface card allows for a powered down or sleeping PC to power on when a print job is received? A. Sleep. B. Wake up. C. Wake on LAN. D. Hibernate. Question 39. Answer: C. Wake on LAN. Question 39. Explanation: when a PC is configured to use Wake on LAN, it will power on when a print job is being sent. There is a similar feature available for modems that allows the PC to be powered up when the modem determines a call is being received. This is Wake on Ring, often used when PCs are configured to receive faxes. Question 40. A company with a very small local area network has grown to the point where statically assigning IP addresses and other NIC parameters have become impossible to manage. What steps can a network administrator take to simplify the process of configuring network interface cards? A. Incorporate a DHCP server into the network. B. Incorporate a file server into the network. C. Incorporate a client redirector. D. Incorporate a DNS server into the network. Question 40. Answer: A. Incorporate a DHCP server into the network. Question 40. Explanation: a DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, server is used to automatically configure the parameters needed by a network interface card when a PC is first booted up. It provides central management of IP address allocation. Question 41. A client complains that his laptop is taking way too long to boot up. You suspect that he has numerous processes that are initiating during startup. What utility would you use to see which processes are being launched on a Windows 10 laptop? A. Services.msc. B. Task Manager. C. WinConfig. D. StartConfig. Question 41. Answer: B. Task Manager. Question 41. Explanation: the Task Manager utility has a Startup tab that displays the processes launched at startup and allows you to disable any process. The previous versions of Windows used msconfig to complete this, but will now display a note instructing the user to open Task Manager instead. Question 42. A user notices that her hard drive is beginning to run out of space, so she plans on replacing it with a larger drive. Until then, she wants to eliminate any temporary files from her hard drive. What utility should she use to accomplish this? A. Disk defrag. B. fdisk. C. Disk cleanup. D. Cleanup. Question 42. Answer: C. Disk cleanup. Question 42. Explanation: the disk cleanup utility is used to delete temporary files from a hard drive. To perform disk cleanup, from start, enter disk cleanup. Question 43. A new employee at the IT help desk has just started and, as the senior administrator, you've been charged with showing him the ropes. While discussing general safety measures, the new employee asks you about the purpose of grounding of electrical systems. What best describes the purpose of electrical grounding? A. A way to provide an alternate method for devices to transport and receive electricity. B. A way to safely provide electricity to the ground for wireless charging. C. A new method created for powering redundant server farms. D. A way to transport excess electrical discharge away from the connected components. Question 43. Answer: D. A way to transport excess electrical discharge away from the connected components. Question 43. Explanation: grounding provides a way to safely transport any excess electrical charges away from the device receiving the voltage. This prevents the electrical spike from causing damage directly to the connected device. Question 44. Your boss wants to have a meeting to discuss your thoughts on the IT department's use of proper safety and handling of equipment. At the meeting, your boss surprises you and asks you to take apart an end user's computer, but to minimize the possibility of electrostatic (ESD). What item can you use to best reduce the risk of ESD? A. Compressed air. B. Steel toe boots. C. ESD straps and mat. D. ESD glasses. Question 44. Answer: C. ESD straps and mat. Question 44. Explanation: using ESD straps and mats will effectively reduce or eliminate the risk of ESD and damaging computer components. The straps and mat work in tandem to balance the amount of static electricity between you and the components. Question 45. After hearing the fire alarm at work, you see smoke coming from a server in the network room. One of your colleagues is already attempting to subdue it using a bucket of water, when you yell out and tell him to stop. What should he use to put out the fire? A. Wet fire traps. B. A Class C fire extinguisher. C. Dry fire traps. D. Wet chemicals. Question 45. Answer: B. A Class C fire extinguisher. Question 45. Explanation: for electrical fires, you should always use special dry fire prevention or extinguishing chemicals. Carbon dioxide is one of those chemicals. Question 46. Josh is getting ready to leave work for the day when he overhears his IT manager debating with a network administrator about proper ways to dispose of computing devices. The IT manager calls you over, and you explain how the admin can simply reference the safety data sheet, SDS, to see disposal instructions. The IT manager then asks you who administers the SDS. What should you tell him? A. FCC. B. OSHA. C. EPA. D. FBI. Question 46. Answer: B. OSHA. Question 46. Explanation: the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, oversees and administers the SDS programs within the United States. Any concerns or comments about the SDS, formerly MSDS, should ultimately be directed to OSHA. Note: the Material Safety Datasheets, MSDS, are now called SDS, for Safety Data Sheets as a result of the adoption of a revised Hazard Communication Standard, HCS, by OSHA that is more closely aligned with the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals, GHS. Question 47. Tim is taking inventory in the network closet and noticed that he was getting pretty warm in the room. He finds the thermostat, and turns it down to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Your boss walks in, notices the new temperature setting, and Tim gets in trouble for not having optimal environment conditions in the network room. How should humidity levels be set in the room where network equipment is stored? A. Very high. B. Balanced. C. At typical room settings. D. Very low. Question 47. Answer: B. Balanced. Question 47. Explanation: for storing active electronic equipment, it is wise to balance humidity levels as best as possible, which will avoid too much condensation or too much static discharge. If in doubt, always consult the Safety Data Sheet, SDS, formerly called the MSDS or Material Safety Data Sheet. Note: the Material Safety Data Sheets, MSDS, are now called SDS, for safety data sheets as a result of the adoption of a revised Hazard Communication Standard, HCS, by OSHA that is more closely aligned with the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals, GHS. Question 48. Jeff is in the back room at work, cleaning out one of the old printers with a shop vacuum. After walking in, you ask Jeff to stop immediately, informing him he could be damaging the printer components by using the shop vacuum. What type of vacuum should he use to clean out the printer? A. Laser vacuum. B. Specialized anti-static vacuum. C. Dell all-in-one vacuum. D. Fireproof vacuum. Question 48. Answer: B. Specialized anti-static vacuum. Question 48. Explanation: when working inside computers or other electrical devices, only specialized vacuums should be used. These devices are specially made so that they do not damage your electrical components. Question 49. After a recent power outage knocked the company offline for 30 minutes, the executives have been discussing how to keep this from happening again. They bring you in, as an IT expert, to help with the planning and design phases. One executive asks, how can you tell how much of a surge can be handled by a surge suppressor? What do you tell him? A. Spike rating. B. Decibel rating. C. Capacitor A level. D. Joule rating. Question 49. Answer: D. Joule rating. Question 49. Explanation: the amount of surge a suppressor can handle will be measured in joules. A higher rating in this category will equate to being able to protect more effectively against higher voltages on the line. Question 50. A form of malware that has the ability to replicate without any intervention is referred to as a _ A. Botnet. B. Trojan horse. C. Crawler. D. Worm. Question 50. Answer: D. Worm. Question 50. Explanation: a worm is a form of malware that is similar to a virus, except that it can replicate on its own without any human intervention. Question 51. While logged into your home office router, you notice an unusually high number of devices connected to your network. You only have 3 devices that need to be connected, but upon closer inspection, you notice a total of 6 devices connected. You suspect that your neighbor has somehow figured out the password to your router. This is a new router, and you just plugged it in and began using it just yesterday. What important security step did you forget to complete when setting up the new home router? A. Lock your router in a secured location. B. Change the public IP address. C. Change default usernames and passwords. D. Download the new firmware. Question 51. Answer: C. Change default usernames and passwords. Question 51. Explanation: this is one of the most important steps when buying a new home office router. Every router of the same make and model comes with the same default username and password, which is used to gain administrative access to the device. If you don't change these defaults, someone could literally just guess the combination by trying all of the default usernames and passwords for the most common Soho devices. Question 52. You just received a phone call from a client who is on the internet about to fill in information requesting personal account numbers and bank information. He states he received an email from his bank informing him that his credit card number may have been compromised by a security breach reported by a major hotel chain. He was directed to an official-looking website that requested bank information and account numbers. What form of security threat is he facing? A. Ransomware. B. Spoofing. C. Trojan horse. D. Phishing. Question 52. Answer: D. Phishing. Question 52. Explanation: phishing scams are commonly used by criminals to obtain sensitive user information. A phishing scam usually begins with something masquerading as a trustworthy entity in some form of electronic communication. Question 53. When someone is assigned only the rights and privileges necessary to do her job, this is referred to as underscore. A. Controlled access. B. Administrator privilege. C. Principle of least privilege. D. Superuser. Question 53 Answer, C. Principle of least privilege. Question 53 Explanation, to allow users enough flexibility to perform their job, but prevent them from accessing areas they are not allowed to access, is referred to as the principle of least privilege. Question 54. While working on the help desk, you receive a phone call from a user who frantically tells you she can't log into her account because she has forgotten her password. Suppose the user is an imposter. What form of fraudulent activity is she using to obtain access to the system? A. Lying. B. Phishing. C. Social engineering. D. VPN. Question 54 Answer, C. Social engineering. Question 54 Explanation, attempting to gain access to a company's network or facility by manipulating people inside the organization is known as social engineering. One example of this is finding out information about employees by looking up their names, finding out the names of their pets, special interests, and using that information to guess at passwords. Question 55. An administrator needs more security than is available with just a login and password on her mobile devices and wants to add another layer of security. How can she accomplish this? A. By logging in on the hour. B. By adding multi-factor authentication. C. By encrypting log names. D. By requiring a higher-level password. Question 55 Answer, B. By adding multi-factor authentication. Question 55 Explanation, multi-factor authentication adds another layer of authentication to a simple login and password. This could be some form of biometrics, the use of a token, possibly a callback phone number. Question 56. One form of malware is disguised as an application that users unwittingly download and run, which leads to a virus. This form of malware is referred to as underscore. A. Phishing. B. Adware. C. Trojan horse. D. Latching. Question 56 Answer, C. Trojan horse. Question 56 Explanation, a Trojan horse, Trojan, is a virus attached to a seemingly innocuous application. When the application is run, it infects the system, which often opens the system for even more viruses. Unlike some viruses, a Trojan does not replicate itself. Question 57. A user is experiencing multiple pop-ups when he opens his computer web browser. What type of malicious software could account for this? A. First-day attack. B. Worm. C. Adware. D. Trojan horse. Question 57 Answer, C. Adware. Question 57 Explanation, any software program in which advertising banners are displayed while the program is running is referred to as adware. Question 58. According to the best practices for malware removal, what is the first step you should perform? A. Identify and research malware symptoms. B. Disable system restore function. C. Remediate infected systems. D. Quarantine infection. Question 58 Answer, A. Identify and research malware symptoms. Question 58 Explanation, the best practice for the removal of malware is to perform these steps in order. Identify and research malware symptoms. Quarantine infected system. Disable system restore. Remediate infected systems. Schedule scans and run updates. Enable system restore. Educate the end user. Question 59. A user has successfully set up dual monitors on his system, but the mouse does not track correctly from one screen to the next. Explain the procedure to remedy this issue. A. The monitors must be realigned in display settings. B. In device manager, The monitor must be to dual screen setting. C. Screen personalization must be reset. D. A dual screen capable mouse must be installed. Question 59 Answer: A. The monitors must be realigned in display settings. Question 59 Explanation: The monitors must be realigned. Right-click on desktop and select display settings, drag the screens to properly orient them so the mouse will track from screen to screen in normal order. Question 60. A user complains that his disk drive appears to be running very slowly and it is beginning to affect the system's speed. He checked and the hard drive is less than half full. What suggestions can you make to help speed up his hard drive? A. Run fdisk. B. Defragment the solid-state drive. C. Move some of his very large files to a network drive. D. Defragment the hard drive. Question 60 Answer: D. Defragment the hard drive. Question 60 Explanation: There is a good chance that the files on his drive have become fragmented. The user should defragment the drive, unless he is using a solid-state drive, SSD, which should never be defragmented. Hope this helped and good luck. Check out these other videos that could be helpful too.